The small town of Harrow's Edge had always been a place shrouded in whispers and superstitions. Nestled between dense woods and a winding river, its history was rich with tales of ghostly apparitions, mysterious disappearances, and eerie phenomena. Yet, among all the legends that circulated through the town, none was more infamous than that of the cursed videotape. The story began years ago, with a family that had just moved into an old Victorian house on the outskirts of town. The Thorne family, eager for a fresh start, were unaware of the house's dark past. It had stood vacant for decades, its former owners having mysteriously vanished without a trace. Undeterred, the Thornes settled in, quickly making the place their own. One fateful evening, as they were unpacking boxes in the attic, young Erica Thorne stumbled upon a dusty, unmarked videotape. Curious and intrigued by the sense of mystery it held, she brought it downstairs to her family. Her father, Jonathan Thorne, an avid collector of old films, decided to play it on their VHS player, hoping to uncover a hidden gem. The screen flickered to life, but instead of a movie or home video, the tape began with a series of disjointed, disturbing images. There were scenes of shadowy figures moving in the darkness, flickering candles, and a haunting melody that played softly in the background. As the tape progressed, the images became more unsettling. A woman with hollow eyes staring directly into the camera, a child's voice whispering indecipherable words, and finally, an old, decrepit house that looked eerily similar to their own. As the tape ended, a cold chill settled over the room. The family sat in silence, each member feeling a sense of unease they couldn't shake. That night, strange things began to happen. Doors creaked open on their own. Footsteps echoed through empty hallways and whispers filled the air. The Thorne family was never the same. The Thorne family's tragic end fueled the legend of the cursed videotape. The story spread like wildfire through Harrow's Edge, with each retelling adding new layers of horror. It was said that anyone who watched the tape would be doomed to experience a series of terrifying events, culminating in their untimely demise. The tape was rumored to be a portal to another realm, a conduit for malevolent spirits seeking to wreak havoc on the living. Years passed, and the story of the cursed videotape became a staple of local folklore. Teenagers would dare each other to find the tape, and many claimed to have seen it, though no one could produce it. It became a rite of passage, a test of courage to venture into the old Thorne house and search for the cursed tape. In the summer of 2023, a group of friends from the city decided to rent a house in Harrow's Edge for a weekend getaway. Jessica, the group's unofficial leader, had a penchant for the paranormal and had heard about the town's spooky reputation. She was particularly intrigued by the legend of the cursed videotape and was determined to find it. Jessica's friends, Mark, Sarah, and Dave, were less enthusiastic but agreed to the trip, eager for a break from their stressful lives. They rented a cozy cottage near the river and spent their days exploring the town and its eerie surroundings. By night, they huddled around a campfire, sharing ghost stories and urban legends. On their second night, Jessica suggested they visit the old Thorne house. "Come on, guys," she urged. "Think about it. How often do we get a chance to experience a real urban legend? It'll be fun." Mark, always the skeptic, rolled his eyes. "You know these stories are just that, right? Stories." Sarah and Dave exchanged uneasy glances but eventually agreed. They couldn't deny the thrill of a good scare. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, the friends set out for the Thorne house. The journey was uneventful, but as they approached the house, an ominous feeling settled over them. The house stood like a sentinel in the darkness, its windows like empty eyes staring back at them. They cautiously entered the house, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. Dust-covered furniture and cobwebs added to the atmosphere of decay and abandonment. Jessica led the way, her excitement palpable. "Let's check the attic," she suggested, recalling where the Thornes had found the tape. The attic was a mess of old furniture, broken toys, and forgotten memories. Jessica scoured the room, determined to find the tape. After what felt like hours, she finally found it. A dusty, unmarked videotape hidden beneath a pile of old clothes. "Guys, I found it," she exclaimed, holding the tape triumphantly. Mark looked unimpressed. "Great. Now what?" Back at the cottage, the group gathered around an old VHS player Jessica had brought along. With a mix of excitement and apprehension, they inserted the tape and pressed play. The screen flickered to life, displaying the same disturbing images the Thorne family had seen years ago. The shadowy figures, the flickering candles, the hollow-eyed woman, and the eerie house. It was all there. The haunting melody played, sending chills down their spines. As the tape ended, an uneasy silence filled the room. Sarah was the first to speak. "That was creepy." Dave nodded. "Yeah, but it's just a tape. There's no such thing as a curse." Jessica, however, was thrilled. "This is amazing. We found the real cursed tape." Mark, ever the skeptic, shook his head. "It's just an old video, Jess. There's no curse." But as the night wore on, strange things began to happen. The temperature in the cottage dropped suddenly, and an eerie whispering filled the air. Shadows danced on the walls, and the friends felt an oppressive presence around them. Over the next few days, the strange occurrences intensified. Objects moved on their own. Eerie voices echoed through the cottage, and the friends experienced vivid nightmares. Each night, the haunting grew worse, leaving them exhausted and terrified. Jessica tried to remain optimistic, but even she couldn't ignore the mounting fear. "Maybe there's something to this legend," she admitted one night. "What if the tape really is cursed?" Mark, though shaken, refused to believe it. "There's got to be a logical explanation. Maybe someone's playing a prank on us." Sarah and Dave were too frightened to argue. They just wanted the nightmare to end. Desperate to break the curse, the friends began researching the Thorne family and the history of the videotape. They visited the local library, spoke to townspeople, and even consulted a local historian, Mr. Hargrave, who had lived in Harrow's Edge his entire life. Mr. Hargrave revealed that the Thorne house had been built on land with a dark history. It was once the site of a series of occult rituals conducted by a secretive cult. The cult had created the videotape as a vessel to trap and channel malevolent spirits. The tape was designed to curse anyone who watched it, binding the spirits to their victims. "Is there any way to break the curse?" Jessica asked, her voice trembling. Mr. Hargrave shook his head. "The only way to break the curse is to destroy the tape. But it won't be easy. The spirits won't let you go without a fight." Determined to end the nightmare, the friends returned to the cottage and prepared to destroy the tape. They gathered around the fireplace, the tape in hand, and lit a fire. As they held the tape over the flames, the room grew cold, and a chilling wind swept through the cottage. The shadows on the walls twisted and writhed, forming the shapes of the malevolent spirits. The friends could hear their anguished cries, their desperate pleas for release. With a final act of courage, Jessica threw the tape into the fire. The flames roared to life, consuming the tape. The spirits let out a final, piercing scream before vanishing into the ether. As the fire died down, the oppressive presence lifted and the cottage returned to normal. The friends were left shaken but relieved, grateful to have survived the ordeal. The legend of the cursed videotape faded into obscurity, becoming just another ghost story in the annals of Harrow's Edge. But those who had experienced it firsthand knew the truth, that some legends are born of darkness, and some tapes are best left unwatched. Relieved, the friends thought they had broken the curse. But that night, they all experienced the same horrifying dream. The hollow-eyed woman, now free from the tape, staring directly at them, whispering, "You cannot escape." The next morning, the townspeople found the cottage eerily quiet. Inside, they discovered the lifeless bodies of Jessica, Mark, Sarah, and Dave, their faces twisted in terror. The cursed tape was gone, But the legend continued. Years later, in a dusty corner of a second-hand store, a young boy found an old videotape. Curious and intrigued by the sense of mystery it held, he brought it home. As he inserted the tape into his VHS player, the screen flickered to life, displaying a series of disjointed, disturbing images. The shadowy figures, the flickering candles, the hollow-eyed woman, and the eerie house. It was all there. And so, the legend of the cursed videotape lives on, a chilling reminder that some curses are never truly over.